Hey, good morning, friends. Today is Thursday, September the 12th, 2024, and the time now is 7:04 a.m. So, I want to talk briefly about the situation relating to Rebecca Cheptegei. She is the Ugandan Olympian and long distance runner who was murdered. Basically, the situation or the story goes that her boyfriend went to her house on Sunday. That is about 2 Sundays ago. The boyfriend and her got into an argument or altercation about land, basically about the land on which she had built her house. And it turns out that the boyfriend actually got to the house with like a gallon or so, or some gasoline in a can, in a container. And the boyfriend basically poured it on her and basically lit her up. This attack resulted in about 75 to 80% of Miss Rebecca Cheptegei's body being burnt, and she died on Wednesday. So basically, the attack took place on Sunday, and she died on Wednesday. Now, it turns out that throughout the whole thing, that when the boyfriend had poured the gasoline on her and lit her up, that he himself got caught on fire. So basically, he lit himself up as well. And it turns out that the boyfriend, who is Dickson Ndiema, had lit himself up. And in fact, he had been taken to the same hospital in which she had died and had been under care. Now, Dickson Ndiema had died. So basically, he passed away about 2 days ago or so. It is very interesting. As much as it is a sad story, you have a young man got into an altercation with a young lady who is a star athlete of her country and of Africa. He attacked her, basically killing her. As much as it is gruesome, it is a terrible thing to do. It turns out that he had basically burned himself and he had died as well. So in this case, it is a double loss of life for Uganda, for the families, and for Africa. As far as Dickson Ndeima's life is concerned, I'm not sure about what he had done in his life in terms of his occupation, but in terms of Rebecca Cheptegei, she has been an Olympian, an athlete representing Uganda and representing Africa. So she has been a public global figure as well. So in that case, it was a situation of sadness. Perhaps many can call it a situation of shame as well, because having been looking through the situation, the incident, and having looked at several sources or papers, it turns out that there has been multiple attacks in Kenya of athletes, especially of female athletes. And these athletes had basically competed on the global stage. It is said that one athlete, Kenyan athletes, who had participated or competed during the Tokyo Olympics, was attacked in 2021. She was stabbed to death. And since then, there has been a continuation of attacks against women, or let's say athletes, okay, female women athletes. And one Kenyan observer and also an advocate for women and women athletes basically stress that this is like an epidemic in Kenya. But it is also the case in many parts of the world, as much as we can say that perhaps not athletes who are being harassed and attacked in other parts of the world. The truth here is attacks on women seem to be proliferating. It seems to be an issue all over the world. In fact, I had a discussion about 2 days ago, basically day before yesterday, with a colleague of mine. And she brought to my attention something which is obvious, which I had known of, but I haven't thought of how significant it is. In terms of the United States, there is a huge number of attacks on women. Okay, the data is very big. The attacks on women in the United States continue to proliferate. However, she did stress that in the United States, much of these attacks are not being reported. Whether the women themselves did not report it as a result of love or as a result of not trying to get themselves, their families, or even their loved ones into the situation as much as by them reporting the situation, the authorities have to continue the process, and it's a whole lot of stress for people. Or the authorities just are not taking it seriously enough and basically just brushing through it, as was the case with Rebecca Cheptegei, who her family said that they had contacted the security apparatus to basically take actions, that Dickson Ndiema was basically harassing their daughter, Rebecca Cheptegei. But back to the situation with women attacks or attacks on women in the United States. It is stressed that by my colleagues, much of the attacks are being done with gun. As much as we are watching all these shows on TV, all these sci-fi and mystery shows, we don't know that the attacks are being done with guns. Now, I'm going to state that again. In the United States, in the West, we are used to daily watching all these mysteries, okay? Lifetime programs, shows about murder, okay? Mysteries of murder. And the police are out there basically trying to work hard using all their technical skills to uncover a mystery, to solve a mystery of a murder. However, my colleague basically made me to acknowledge the fact that the murder that are being committed in the United States against women, lots of these murder, or if not the majority of them, are committed using guns. When I thought about that, I actually tried to reflect, looking at all these unsolved mystery programs that I've watched. Whether we are talking about just a sci-fi, we are talking about fantasy, fiction, or whether we are talking about a program based on real story. Yes, a lady was kidnapped. Yes, the kidnapper might have taken the lady to the woods and then tied her up and then killed her. But in most cases, guns were used. So it is very interesting that even though we are watching these things, they are all in our faces, okay? We as a society have still not been able to comprehend the fact or acknowledge the fact that the situation in the United States in terms of attacks, brutal murder against women are at an all-time high. They are proliferating rapidly, and that these murders are being done with guns. Now, I'm going to go back to the whole situation with Miss Rebecca Cheptegei and her ex-boyfriend who also died, Dickson Ndiema. The situation, when I heard about it initially, I wanted the authorities to basically punish Mr. Ndiema in public so that the rest of the world and the rest of Africa can see. We need to, as people, as Africans, to fight crimes, but to fight crimes in a way that the people know how serious the system is about preventing brutal attacks against one another. But also thinking about it, it made me to come to the realization that because a perpetrator is brutal, doesn't mean that the system, the authority, should be brutal as well. The authority must set an example. Now, in terms of Mr. Ndiema, we must treat him with courtesy. We must also treat him with dignity, even though, yes, he committed murder. But then it is very sad, though, as much as he committed murder that many of us were mad about, the fact that he died, is it a cause? Is it a reason to be happy, to say, yes, it is a karma? Okay? You murdered a young lady brutally. Now you die the same way. Is it a karma? Is it something not to rejoice about, that we can say that he got what he deserved? Or should we treat this as a double loss in terms of death for their families, for both Kenya and Uganda, and for Africa? Especially in terms of Rebecca Cheptegei. She was a young person, a hero of her country, Uganda, and a hero of Africa. However, perhaps we can learn from the situation. I hope that we've learned from this situation. Now, my friends, I don't know what you think, but please let me know what you think. I want to hear what you think. Was the death of Dickson Ndiema a karma? Does he deserve it? Did he actually die of a natural cause? Yes, it is said that he got about 30% burn on his body and died from it, while Miss Cheptegei got about 75 to 80% body burns, from which she died. Can we say that Mr. Ndiema deserved what he got? Was he taken out? Did he die naturally because of the wounds on him, or was he taken out by somebody in the system that were very angry as a result of what he did? Should we learn from the situation between both Dickson Ndiema and Rebecca Cheptegei? Should we train our people as Africans and people around the world that people should learn to let things go and not go brutal, attacking and destroying the lives of one another? Did you learn anything from the death of Miss Rebecca Cheptegei and now her ex-boyfriend who murdered her, Dickson Ndiema? Please, my friend, once again, tell me what you think, and I want to hear what you think. Now, I want to thank you a lot, my friends, for being a member of the Echoing Voice community. But most importantly, friends, I want to thank you for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.